City Stories is brought to you by Concord Dance Academy, offering the highest quality of pre-professional dance training for children and adults of all ages and all abilities in a positive manner. And Company C, Designs for Colorful Living.
Welcome to City Stories on ConcordTV. I'm your host, Jennifer Kretovic. If this is the first time you're seeing City Stories, no worries. It's my first time hosting it as well. Let me get you caught up on what exactly City Stories is. It's kind of an encapsulation of what's occurred in this amazing city of Concord, New Hampshire over the past few weeks, as well as what's coming up in the next few weeks ahead. So we're kind of giving you a little history, culture, everything that's happening in and about the city. Today, I have a very special co-host with me, Steve Shirtliff, man extraordinaire. I know you don't like to say that, but you are such a humble person, and that's why you're just a dear friend of mine.
Oh, thank you.
So Steve is a city councilor. He is also a representative in the House. You have a big title there. Which title?
Majority Leader.
Majority Leader. That's
I don't know how
really
big it is, but that's my title.
It sounds big because it's major,
Well.
or it's got major in it. I know he's on the board of directors for the Pennacook Historical Society as well as the Pennacook Village Association. We are on a board together for the Concord 250, and you are retired sheriff?
U.S. Marshal.
U.S. Marshal. Ooh, that's big.
Oh. Well, thank you.
You're a member of the Masons also.
Knights of Columbus.
The Knights of Columbus.
A
See,
little
the
bit
list
of
goes
the
on and on.
Grange.
Last month, I co-hosted with Doris, before I got asked to be the host here. And it was kind of the same thing because I'm involved in a ton of stuff with this,
Right.
with the city. But the thing is, both you and I know all kinds of amazing stories of what's happening across the city. And I invited you today because there is something really special coming to Concord. We haven't had something like this in a number of years. And it's a brand new statue that's going to be in the downtown. Can you tell me more about it?
Absolutely. I'm so glad to be here, especially on your first broadcast, and it's always a pleasure to be with you. I'm serving on a committee, and I have the pleasure of chairing it. It started out as a bill in the legislature a couple of years ago that I introduced to honor a late governor of New Hampshire, John G. Winant. And I know some of our viewers probably know about Governor Winant and what he has done for our city, our state, our country, and actually for the world. But for those that aren't familiar with Governor Winant, I'll tell you, if you don't mind, a little bit about him.
I love stories. Please tell me.
Well, Governor Winant was born in New York in 1889 and went to St. Paul's School. After graduation from St. Paul's, he attended Princeton, and after leaving Princeton, he went back to his alma mater as a teacher and eventually the vice rector. And that's when he adopted Concord as his new hometown. And this was his hometown for the rest of his life, other than his service overseas. He, in 1916, was elected to the New Hampshire legislature. He left the legislature to join the U.S. Army Air Corps in World War I. After coming back from the service, he was elected 2 terms in the New Hampshire Senate, representing the city of Concord. In 1924, he was elected to his first term as governor. He stayed out of office 1 term and came back again in 1930.
Wow.
And served in 30 and 32. He was our first 3-term governor of the state. And the thing that really made John Winant exceptional at that early stage in his career was his ability to work with the federal government in getting New Hampshire out of the Depression. John Winant was a lifelong Republican, but he worked very well with President Franklin Roosevelt's administration in Washington, supporting New Deal programs like the WPA and the Civilian Conservation Corps to get young people to work and to help them be able to provide for their families. And there are a lot of stories about the generosity of Governor Winant to those less fortunate. He used to walk to the State House, to the governor's office on the 2nd floor. And on his way, he'd always have half dollars in his pockets. And he'd find somebody and people that were needy, and often people would be waiting out in front of the State House for the governor to show up. And he'd give them a half a dollar so they could go have a good meal. He told the Concord Police Department back then, if you find a homeless person and you got an empty cell, let them sleep in the cell. And in the morning, give them a good breakfast, and then just send me the bill. And there's a story about the governor walking into the governor's office in the middle of winter with no top coat. And one of his aides said, "Governor, where's your coat on such a cold day?" And he said, "I was walking to the State House and I met a man that needed the coat far more than I did, so I gave it to him." And that was the humanity of John Winant. And for that alone, he should be honored for what he did for our state. But his life goes on from there. In 1934, when President Roosevelt passed the Social Security Act, although, as I said, Governor Winant was a Republican, he reached out to Governor Winant to be the first director of the Social Security Administration. In fact, Governor Winant was supposed to get the first Social Security number 001-01001.
Wow.
And being such a humble individual, he said, no, I don't want it. So that very first number went to a lady here in Concord. He served in the Social Security Administration until 1936. And when President Roosevelt ran again for re-election, it became a campaign issue, and he campaigned for President Roosevelt to make sure we preserve Social Security. From there, he went to the International Labor Organization in Geneva, Switzerland, and then in 1941, President Roosevelt appointed John Winant to be the U.S. ambassador to England to replace Joe Kennedy. There, he really showed his brilliance. As President Eisenhower, the future President Eisenhower said, and the leader of the armed forces of the military during World War II, John Winant took care of the diplomacy, and I took care of the military aspects of the war. And both of them were knighted by the King George after the war. John Winant did so much for our country. And he came back in 1947, completely worn out from his wartime service in England. And sadly, in November of 47, he took his own life. But he contributed so much to mankind. And as I rode around Concord, I used to see so many buildings dedicated to former governors, and very justified. But I thought we had nothing for John Winant, who has done so much. So he introduced legislation to see about having a monument erected, a permanent memorial to him, at no public funds, but with private donations. And I've had tremendous support from St. Paul's and Van McLeod at the Cultural Affairs and others. And the committee has been meeting periodically. We have just selected a sculptor from Missouri who is going to do a likeness of the governor, sitting on a bench, and that will be located on the grounds of the New Hampshire State Library, which is so appropriate because he was a lover of education, and he'll be sitting on a bench, and he'll actually be looking up at the governor's office.
And how much of a humanitarian also that you could sit down with this governor that really was a governor of the people, and a terrific citizen of the United States. Absolutely. With the diplomacy over in England. What a great story.
Yeah. So the statue will cost $97,000. We're hoping to raise $150,000 to make sure that there's a fund for future maintenance and for other work to be done. And then if more money is raised, we'd like to set up scholarships to the Advanced Studies program at St. Paul's in Governor Winant's name. So we're very anxious and very excited that this is finally coming to fruition. We're going to be pretty soon announcing a campaign to raise this money. But I think there are people from Concord, New Hampshire, and all over the world that would be glad to donate to finally have a permanent memorial to one of our favorite sons.
I'm so glad you came in and told this story, because I'd heard bits and pieces of it over the past month when it was announced that you'd had selected an artist for the monument. Right. But it's great that you came in and talked about the statue and talked about what it was that was so significant about his time here for the city of Concord, St. Paul's particular, right, being a teacher, as well as for the state and for the United States.
And the nice thing, too, I think to keep in mind is, although he was, like I said, he did so much, and he himself should be memorialized. The thing about John Winant was the spirit of bipartisanship, and sometimes we see that lacking in Washington, and sometimes even in Concord. It'll be nice to be able to memorialize that we must work together for the common good, and do that in the memory of John Winant.
Well, you and I both know, having our service on the city council, the expectation of our citizens is that we do represent them, and we do so in the best manner possible.
Absolutely.
Despite the parties. So the other great thing is that you and I are on Concord 250 together.
Yes.
So another thing that happens at the State House Plaza, actually on City Plaza, before you get through the arch, is we have this magnificent time capsule. Now, I don't want to give a lot of details about the time capsule, but I do know coming up in June, we are starting to plan when the time capsule comes out so we can take it on tour to the different schools so kids can start thinking about what to put in that time capsule for when we put it back in the ground for our 250 celebration coming up in 2015. So we will keep everybody posted on that. We also want to tell you the next public forum is coming up on March 26th. So write that down in your calendars or put it in your smartphones, 6 p.m. At the City Council chambers right at City Hall. Steve, thanks so much for coming and spending time with me.
My pleasure.
I always love seeing you, and this is a great day to have you here and telling us about John Winant. And as we get closer and your fundraising goes along well, I hope you'll come back and keep us up to date.
I'd love to. Thanks
Absolutely.
so much, Jennifer.
Thank you. Stay with us. We're going to talk with Lindsay, or Lindsay is going to give us some information about what's going on at Beaver Meadow School this month for Broadway Dreamin'. Stay right here.
My name's John Haytab. I'm the art teacher here at Beaver Meadow Elementary School in Concord, New Hampshire, but I also direct the Student Actors Program, a student theater program that we've been running for the past 23 years, I believe. Our show this year is called Broadway Dreamin', and it features 7 different Broadway shows. The shows are Willy Wonka, Annie Get Your Gun, You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, Aladdin, Little Mermaid, Wicked, and The Lion King. And we also offer a feature opening and closing number from The Lion King with some guest performers and some really huge opening numbers. We do Circle of Life for our opening number, which is a huge entrance piece, which really kicks off the show. Well, it's a full-scale musical theater program that we offer for students in grades 3 through 5. Every student who auditions has a chance to be on stage. We actually have auditions, but we don't turn anyone away. So we've had cast numbers as high as, I think 109 was the largest cast that we had. This year's cast is 86, so it's a nominal figure by comparison, I guess. Still 86 kids on stage. It's a lot of work. Well, it partly is the design of the program. We have developed a model that uses musical review as our style, so it allows us to feature a number of different shows. And by featuring a number of different shows, we run scenes that we can cast anywhere from 12 to 16 kids in each scene. So they have their own scene to do, but then they are also involved in full cast numbers, which allows them to be part of the larger cast. So, we're able to have those 86, but they're broken up into 6 different scenes, excluding the full company numbers when all 86 of them are on stage. So that's a handful. We try to lay it out to the kids right from the get-go what the expectations are. This is not it's not just an after-school program where kids are coming to just hang out with their friends. They're coming to work hard, and we push them, we challenge them a lot over the course of the 5-6 months that we do the program. So it's sort of slow at first because we start early in September, right at the beginning of school year. And then so we only see them on a scattered basis. And then as we get closer towards the holidays, then we start having some full cast rehearsals where they all come together and share what they've done so far. And so it's a process of sort of building that larger cast and building a sense of teamwork amongst the entire cast. And then this is the week really when things all start to gel and all the puzzle pieces start to fall into place. And, and that's the exciting part, to see them get excited about the stage and about the props and the costumes and everything. And they see all the hard work that goes into it. And usually their response is appropriate, and they are on board, and they give their all as best they can. I'd say it's pretty much on par. Oftentimes things will seem a little bit rough, even in show week, because they're getting used to some new spaces and new places. Today was the first day that some of these kids were up on this stage, so I've been speaking about the space up until this point, and we've worked on the floor and taped it out so they can see how big things are going to be. But until they're actually up on the stage, it really doesn't gel for them. So it's physically getting up here that helps them to sort of solidify their part, their role, their scene. Not to mention that they feel the sense of importance, because when they're up there and the other kids are in the Greek chorus and watching, and everyone wants to do well when everyone's watching. So now the pressure's on a little bit. bit. And hopefully that pressure is a good motivator. I'll tell you right now, you could look at the members of cast in any of the shows in the past few years, and a lot of them are Beaver Meadow graduates and kids who started right on this stage, and a lot of them are kids who've come back and they're helping with all the tech. You know, they've hung some lights, they've done the lighting, they help run the soundboards, they run the lighting board. You know, they basically become the technicians of the show, and they feel a sense of obligation too. You know, they started back at SAP, and so it's not unusual for them to come back and help out. A lot of our graduates have gone on and pursued theater and performing arts in a professional sense, gone on to study at college. You know, we see that all the time. We haven't been fortunate enough to have some of those alumni come back and help with the SAP program, but we do have a lot of alumni parents who come back. Interestingly enough, we were commenting that the other day, that we have some parents that come back whose kids haven't been here for years, but they were sort of part of that tradition years back, and they feel a sense of obligation, a real sense of community, which is really kind of what this program is all about. It's sort of etched into this part of town, and people know SAP around Beaver Meadow. You know, they know what that means. And that runs on the 13th, 14th, and 15th of February, this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. All shows are at 7 o'clock. Tickets are $6 for adults, $4 for students. And hey, we'd love to have people come out and see the show. We usually do.
Boy, you have to give big props to John Haytab and Clint Close over at Beaver Meadow School, not just for the work that they do at the school, but what they do for theater all across the city with several of our schools. They're amazing. And the stories they come up with, working with the hundreds of kids, I'm so proud of them. I've known them for probably 15 years. Boy, I'll tell you, it makes you feel old, though, to see John up on the screen and know, oh, it's been a long time. I have with me Doris Ballard from ConcordTV, and she and I are going to talk about Seniors of Concord, which is this amazing new storytelling opportunity for a lot of our citizens in the city, particularly our senior citizens.
Our wiser citizens.
Oh.
Are more seasoned.
They have, having met several of them over the years, they have these fascinating stories.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, first of all, I must say, your first show, congratulations as
Thank
the
you.
Official host, and you're doing an amazing job. So,
Could be my first and last, but no, I'm
no.
kidding.
ConcordTV is very lucky to have you, so thank you.
You're very welcome. So tell me about Seniors
All
of
right.
Concord.
Well, as a matter of fact, State Representative and City Councilor Steve Shurtleff volunteered to be one of the seniors to be interviewed. So let me tell you a little bit about the project. When we heard about Concord 250 and the big celebration that's coming up, we thought about what could ConcordTV provide as something for future generations to see and learn more about the city. Well, and its people. Well, we thought, you know what, let's start with the seniors of Concord, and they're the ones who have a lot of history to share with everyone. And so we put out a call to the public to say if you'd like to be interviewed for 5 minutes as a senior citizen. So I guess that would be anyone by AARP terms, what is it, 50 and above?
It depends. I get the card now, too.
You don't know?
I do.
It's getting younger and younger
It
all
is.
the time.
Isn't that great, though?
I know.
People are retiring earlier and earlier, and then they get to do more travel and go and see all kinds of different things. And
I wish. That's another show.
tell us all kinds of stories, which is also good. But I think, 60, 62,
Sure,
somewhere in there.
whoever feels that,
I think anybody that has a story,
Good.
a good story, we'll listen.
Absolutely. All right, so we're going to take about 25 to 30, first come, first serve, and they can come into the studio, and we interview them, asking them 3 questions. The first question is, the answer is a little longer, which is, tell us about your connection, your life, and your part in even working in Concord, raising a family, living in Concord, some connection to Concord. And we just let them talk.
Nice.
And then we ask them about what words of wisdom or what advice would you have for the future generations?
That's a tough one.
Absolutely. And then we asked them, the final question was, what do you wish for the city of Concord in its future, in the future and its people? We're going to take all of those, and over the summer, we're going to have some of our wonderful technical staff edit this into a documentary.
Wonderful.
And we're going to be featuring it sometime this fall and inviting people to come and watch it and eat popcorn and just have a good time hearing all about the stories of seniors who have a lot to share with us. And then we're going to put it on a DVD and give it to Concord 250 as our gift from ConcordTV for the next generation.
That sounds amazing. So
Yeah.
if you have a story that you want to share and you're a senior,
Yeah.
guessing in that senior age time period, please give us a call or
Right.
get in touch with us here at Concord TV so that we can include your story. And I know you've got a lot of really good ones.
Right.
And we like to hear the dirt too.
Hey.
'Cause I'll tell you, nothing sells like dirt 50 years from now.
Well, we're hearing a lot of great, I prompt people. I'm not sitting like this. We just prompt them and let them talk.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to keep quiet while I'm listening to them because I'm nodding and I'm going, oh my gosh, I didn't know this about you, or I don't know you and I didn't know that you did this wonderful, it's just amazing, the things that people are sharing with us. And there's a lot, when they talk about the wishes of Concord for the future,
Yeah.
there's already some common threads
Really?
without them talking to one another. So I think people are really going to enjoy this piece.
That will be wonderful.
We
What
have a-
else is coming up on
Well,
Concord TV?
Funny you should ask, because Concord On Air is coming up Sunday,
April 6th.
from noon to 8 p.m.
8 hours of fabulousness of Concord.
Live.
Live.
Television. So we're calling it reality TV in Concord, New Hampshire, because you never know what's going to happen
you
on
never
live
know what's
TV.
gonna happen.
Right. So every hour there's going to be, we're going to have some hosts, co-hosts, much like this. We're going to have, and it's going to be very fast moving. There'll be interviews that we taped ahead of time at different locations in the community. I'll just give you a little example. One, we contacted a lot of our city councilors and people in the school district and say, is there a place in the community that you really like? Okay, that we can brag about, or you can, especially in their wards, city councilors. So Councilor Mark Cohen decided he wanted to have an interview and talk about the cemetery at the intersection of Sewell's Falls and Fisherville Road.
Yeah.
So Chris Gentry and I went over there just the other day, and there he was standing right at that corner, just waiting for us to show up. And
That's the Maple Grove Cemetery.
Exactly.
Did he talk about Orlando Brown? I don't want to spill
you know
gut.
what? No, don't say it.
All right.
But that's going to be a piece, one of the small of the many, like more than 40 pieces that people are going to be hearing about and seeing videos that we've been collecting all year long. So it's going to be a really wonderful day. We want people to tune in and hear all the great stories, see all the great interviews, and also there'll be some arts component, live arts component every hour.
I do think it's one of the shows that if you ever want to know what's happening culturally
Yes.
in Concord, Concord On Air is the show to be watching, because you're going to see some amazing talented youth that we have in our city. They can be fine artists, as in painters, drawers. They can be musicians. They
Right.
can be in theater. And fabulous community leaders that are doing all kinds of amazing things for the city. I mean, Jessica Fogg's a really good example, because she's involved in the Multicultural Festival. She's on your board of directors. She's on Concord 250 with me. She's
everywhere.
probably a person that would be great
She's everywhere.
for one of Concord's
Most fascinating individuals,
people.
which you were last year.
That's right.
Except
Thank
that,
you.
And yeah, by the time this show airs, we're going to be pretty close to announcing the 8, because there'll be one every hour who will be featured during the 8 live hour telecast.
This is true. So
yeah.
people should be thinking about that now. March 3rd is
March
the closing
3rd is the
date.
deadline, so it'll probably be over by the time this airs. If it isn't, get it in. You've got
It's
some
going to be
time.
really close.
Yeah, it's going to
really
be close.
tight. But you have to be watching that, because
Yeah.
8 fascinating people.
Right.
We know there are hundreds of fascinating
Oh.
people, but who's the top 8
Really, thousands.
for 2014?
Right. And they're nominated from the public, and they'll be selected from a judging panel, which some of the people who were nominated from last year will be invited
right,
to be
Cindy
judges.
Flanagan, I think, also signed up, and
Yes.
she was a fascinating person.
Oh, yes.
But she's
Yeah.
a fascinating person always. It
I
didn't just
know.
have to be last year.
I know. And then we had people last year who were we didn't know, who were all
The
ages.
Gaslighter
The Gaslighter,
restaurant.
Mrs.
What
Salutis, right?
What a treasure of a story.
Yeah.
What an amazing person.
Sula, okay,
I
sorry.
can't pronounce the last
excuse
name.
me,
I
yeah.
know.
But go to the Gaslighter because you'll meet her. She's quite fascinating. Couldn't speak a word of English when she came here from Greece. Opened
That's-
this restaurant with her husband on Main Street, who his husband's now passed on, unfortunately, and she's been running it almost solo for all these years. And who knew what a fascinating individual she was.
And
you
the
know?
highest respect for any individual that comes into this city,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing our language,
Right.
not knowing our culture, and being able
Mm-hmm.
to not only learn it and adapt, but
Right.
to fit in, thrive,
Right.
succeed, and then give so much of yourself to others going forward.
Amazing.
Yeah.
As part of Concord On Air 2, there are 6 featured topics. You'll hear about neighborhoods, Main Street / businesses. You'll hear about city, school district, culture and arts, and so I mean it just encompasses everything. A nice cross. It's a quilt. It's a video quilt of Concord, New Hampshire,
That's
in
awesome.
8 hours live, Sunday, April 6th.
Now, you also have some classes coming up for Concord TV?
We've just held a PSA workshop for nonprofits. We're going to be having a marketing on a slim to none budget for nonprofits again. And we've got our filmmaking, intro to camera, intro to editing. People can do their own shows like this if they want for free. And so, I mean, 226-8872. That's what you need to do. Call 226-8872 or go to our website, yourconcordtv.org.
And is that the new website?
That's the new website. We're still tweaking it. You know how websites
Of
are
course.
never totally ending, being
Never
developed.
done, never complete,
Absolutely.
always in the works.
That's right. But kudos to Chris Gentry for coming up with developing our new website. And take a look at it. If you see anything that you know is a little amiss, we'll fix it. But check it out.
And that's the amazing thing about websites too, because you get in there and all of a sudden a link will be broken and you
Right.
don't understand. And when Concord TV is telling you that they want you to go on the website and they want you to play with it, they really mean it.
Yes.
Anybody that says, hey, I just launched a website, they really do want you to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. And
Right.
you had a great website before.
Yeah,
And
but-
now it's a little bit more colorful because I have hopped on.
Yeah,
I have looked
good,
myself,
good.
Which is fabulous.
Thank
We'd like
you.
to do that.
Facebook too. We want people to like us on Facebook, especially, and YouTube, because we go to our YouTube account. We've got some great videos that
I
people
was
can
on
watch.
your Facebook account today
Yes.
because I needed to look up the date for Concord On Air.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that you have 874 friends, and you are so close to that
We want to reach
1,000.
1,000.
Yeah, we do.
Yes,
So
yes.
this is a good time to put the push on for that
Thank
1,000
you.
friends.
You're ahead of the curve there because we
And-
would like to get it by the end of our Concord On Air.
I think we
Yeah.
have to have a similar goal because we have 52 mutual friends of my Facebook account to your Facebook account. So if you're going to 1,000, I'd like to go to 100.
All right.
And then we'll have 2 goals
Good.
going simultaneously.
Good. Excellent.
So City Stories, this is pretty close to the end of this month's episode, but I do also want to talk to you about next month. Now, this is like hot off the press information. It'll probably be old maybe by the time you see this, but I'm hopeful next month to have a guest with me from Granite State Music Festival. They are going to be continuing in Concord, and they are planning to have their show in June, a 2-day festival, Saturday, Sunday, with amazing musicians that run from in the morning until into the evening at the Everett Arena in the Kiwanis Fair, or the Kiwanis Park that's there. It's been a tremendous venue over the last 2 years, and they did have some weather issues 2 years ago. Last year, you couldn't have picked a better weekend for the festival, and this year is going to be just as fine. So we want to have them come on and talk to us about the types of bands that they have lined up, as well as how we can get tickets so that we can all go and we can support this amazing event that happens here in our capital city. They have a terrific mission. It has to do with building a scholarship fund for students that are interested in continuing music education, either after high school or even students that are looking for additional lessons now in their youth that their parents perhaps can't afford private lessons. They want to be able to provide instrumentation for independent schools and schools in general that need extra help in their music department. It's a great mission, it's a great organization, and we want to be able to support them fully, and we're hopeful to see them next month. So I hope you'll join us here at City Stories. I'm Jennifer Kretovic. I want to thank Steve Shirtliff one more time, and of course, Doris Ballard for joining me on this edition.
Thank you.
Have a great month. We'll see you soon.